The wait is over. Week 1 of the college football season. We're back, baby. The Tailgate brought to you by Campus to Canton. Got a good crew here this morning. Colin Decker, Chris Moxley with me, Austin Nace. If you're your first time joining in here with us to kick off a season, we promise you won't regret it. And if you're back, ask those people. They obviously don't. They're joining us for another year. Guys, I actually was looking at this. I think this is the 5th year we've done this show. That's crazy that we've been around long enough. So shout out to everybody who's been along with us for the past couple of years as we help you guys get kicked off and ready for all the games here today. Chris, you're international. We're so back. Yeah, Nathan, thank you. Yeah, Chris, you're joining us from abroad. I mean, we got an international correspondent now on the team. This is great. The money we get to pump into this show now.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I'm broadcasting from abroad. It's been a challenge to watch some of the games so far with the schedule, so I usually try to catch up on them in the morning, which is fine for what I need. Although I don't get to tilt live, which honestly is probably going to save me in the long run. To be honest, that might increase my life expectancy over time. So
it'll be canceled out by all the cigarettes and bread and stuff over there, right? Because that's what you do when you're in France.
Yeah, but like now I got a little bit back on the on my tilt fest, so we're good.
It all evens out in the end. All right, guys. Well, we've actually had a lot of games already this week. Week 1, we get a lot of these Thursday, Friday games. I want to check in on a couple of storylines maybe that we've already got going on. Let's start with that Auburn-Baylor matchup that happened yesterday. Matt and I had talked a little bit about that on C2C Live this week, that is kind of like an outsider elimination game for the playoff. I think both those teams thought if things went perfect for them this year, they could kind of be one of those last teams to scoot in. And Auburn takes it. Auburn wins by a couple of touchdowns. But for us, that's not really the takeaway. For us, we're worried about maybe the Auburn passing game. I mean, they Jackson Arnold, I think, looked a little limited again passing. They used him a little more as a rusher last night. Colin, what are you doing with your Auburn receiving assets? Cam Coleman, Malcolm Simmons, Eric Singleton, etc. over the next few weeks?
Yeah, I think that's a very fair question. I think it's definitely fair to be worried. I mean, Baylor's a good defense, but I mean, as far as teams that they're going to play this year, it's probably middle of the pack in terms of the defenses that they'll play. So it's not like this is their toughest matchup or anything. Now, maybe the season, they kind of get going later on in the season. I think they have an FCS matchup or a soft matchup next week. So, we'll see. Like, I'm not totally panicked, but I'm definitely nervous. There were pretty high expectations for a lot of guys in this room, and that was not a great showing.
Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, that was pretty bad. I mean, Baylor can stop anything in the defensive line. Like, I think they had a run stuff rate of like 4%, and like that is 0 percentile. That is horrendous. So Auburn just said, yeah, we can just run it down your throat the whole time. It doesn't really matter. And they did for the most part. I mean, they were really successful on the ground. And I think you saw some explosives, and I think you saw like down-to-down success. And I don't know that that's going to be the case every week. I expect the passing game to pick up when it needs to. But it was interesting to see because I wasn't really expecting that version of Auburn. I certainly wasn't expecting the rushing performance from Jackson Arnold, like 150 yards. Like, I know he can scoop. Like, I didn't know he could scoot like that. That was a little surprising, but he just obviously wasn't there as a passer. Just wasn't very good. Just didn't really give you anything. Each of his dropbacks were just nothing good, nothing quality. They weren't asking him to do a lot, which they didn't have to. But yeah, I mean, I think his passing stuff is a problem for like the season. That does scare me. I just don't think they're going to be so rush heavy.
I do just want to toss out that this might limit short-term value on some of the wide receivers there, but obviously I think we still think of all of them as legitimate NFL prospects. So sell cheap at your own peril. That would be my final takeaway there. not on the sheet, guys, but I wanted to ask you about Haas Haney. Haas Haney got announced as the starter late in the week, rolled out there, and put on, for my money, one of the most aggressive downfield passing performances I've ever seen in my life. Ran around a ton, looked really, really fun, at least for fantasy, and then broke his foot, and he's out for at least 5 weeks. Were we encouraged by that start, Chris? And do we think that he takes the job back when he gets back? Assuming, I think we all know what Zane Flores is.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I was like extremely impressed. Like, I listen, we liked Haney going back to when he was a recruit at TCU. He was a favorite of, I think, Matt Brunings. Yeah, he looked electric. Like, he looked awesome. It was really exciting. And then it didn't look like a bad injury either. Like, he was walking around. Apparently he got an x-ray at the stadium and they found out like almost immediately. So yeah, he's got out for 5 weeks, but when he comes back, I mean, you have to think that there's upside here for like weekly performances. I don't know if the NFL stuff's ever going to be there, but I was way more impressed than I thought I would be. Like, I thought this was a competition where like now the guy was doing well. And like, it might've been where Hossein was really awesome and they just didn't want to name the starter.
And Flores was some sort of incumbent, right? I don't know. We can use that word loosely.
I mean,
he was there.
He was the guy they picked last cycle, right?
Yeah.
Like, to be their quarterback, so they didn't want to lose him.
Yeah. Anybody care to guess what his ADOT was in this game?
Who? Haney or Flores?
Haney.
15, 16?
Yeah, I was going to say something like 16 or 17.
17.2.
Yeah, he just shucking it, running around. It was awesome. It reminded me of old school Oklahoma State, which we haven't seen in quite a while. Like, that's what that reminded me of, like old school Gundy, which was fun. And then we got to see Zane Flores do absolutely nothing for the next 3 quarters.
10-yard ADOT between the two difference. 7.9 versus 17.2. So that kind of tells you what this offense potentially looks like without Haney.
They were playing UT Martin, and I'm like, okay, well, it's an FCS school, like, who cares? And then I'm like, well, we just saw what Haney did. So, like, how bad is Zane Flores really if that's what he's putting up against UT Martin? So it was, yeah. I was not encouraged by the Zane Flores experience.
They get Oregon next week too, right?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a disaster.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not looking great for OSU there in the short term. We had somebody in the chat say Scudero. I guess they want us to talk about Scudero. I don't know about you guys. I've got the Scuds. Do you guys have the Scuds? I
got the Scuds.
No, my doctor treated that.
Oh, okay. SpongeBob reference for anybody who doesn't get it. We all wanted to figure out who the stud wide receiver at San Jose State was this offseason. Is it Scudero, we think, after one game? I'm hesitant to react hard after one, but it kind of looked like it to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It seems like the slot, Nick Nash was the big target there last year, and I think Nick Nash was a good receiver, but it seems like this is going to also be partially like the scheme. And Scudero looked really good. I know you said you're hesitant to declare him kind of like the wide receiver one in this offense after one game. It was against Central Michigan, but it was a tight game the whole time. So like I think that's like fairly predictive, at least. It's not like they were slinging it around, got up early, or they were playing catch up the whole time or anything like that. Like, I think this was kind of the offense that they want to run in a normal situation. And we saw him be the heavy target there. It's I got the Scuds, got him in a couple places. So I've been optimistic there. And I think it's always good to confirm your priors,
Yeah, I think this performance, if you drafted him, you're feeling like awesome, right? Because you're drafting him in the top 5 rounds, generally speaking. And
smartest guy in my league. You damn well better bet I messaged everybody this morning talking crap on Scuds.
It was. What do you have? 15 targets. One was a huge.
PFF has 12 for him. 8 catches, 143 yards, and a touchdown.
Okay, I have another source that says 15. So I'm going to trust PFF on this one. Still though, like, he had one play that was gigantic, that accounted for like a lot of yardage, but like he still made the play happen, and like that's not an insignificant level of competition that he's doing it against. That's going to be like drastically different than what he sees weekly. I find it hard to, because I don't think he's the level of player that Nick Nash is. So like, I find it hard to believe that like that's a 1-for-1 replacement. And like, I didn't think Leland Smith, like, I still think he plays a big role in this offense too. I mean, you can't not be encouraged, but it's not like he came out of nowhere, right? Like, this is a player who was drafted in the top 5 rounds of CFF drafts. Like, this is like it meets expectation. I think maybe he outperforms it, but like this was a good start.
And there's room for 2 guys here, right? You just mentioned Leland Smith. He did have 8 targets. He didn't do as much on them. But I mean, they threw the ball 44 times last night. And I think when Colin and I previewed San Jose State this year, we mentioned they threw the ball 50 times, like 6 or 7 times last year, at least. Like, it's kind of just what they want to do. So we might get some games with Leland Smith or somebody else really standing out there for them.
They had Lockhart last year, right? Like,
yep.
Nick Nash dominated it, but it doesn't really matter if you're going to throw that many times. By the way, how bad is Walker Eget? Like, I know he had 300 yards, but
he's
like,
terrible.
He's so bad. I mean, it was really bad.
Yeah, he is not good. 52% completion percentage, low under 7 yards per attempt. Yeah, not great. So
they brought in a freshman this year, right?
Tama Amasoni. Yeah.
Did he get some carries, or did I make that up?
Did he?
I watched.
He did.
Of
5
that game.
carries for 23 yards.
Yeah, I was going to say they used him in some run packages. So, I mean, I don't know how long the leash is on Eget if like they're already looking to incorporate Amasoni into the offense.
I mean, they started yanking the leash on what's his name last year, and he actually was decent for Eget.
Before Eget, and then Eget had the. What was it? The 4 for 24 game where like the weather was bad, but like 4 for 24.
Not great. Who put Bo Prabula this year's John Mateer? Which one of you did that? Which one?
There's zero chance it was me because
fess up.
That was me. That was me.
Opinions.
I don't know. Many people are saying it. Somebody in our Discord said it. So I didn't see.
Is it the guy wearing a Penn State shirt right now? Is that the one saying it? Is that what you're wearing there, Colin?
I am wearing a Penn State shirt. Okay. But no, I was a Bo Prabula hater. I was crapping on him all offseason. And he lost this job. Like, Sam Horn was the starter. And then Sam Horn
I think that was a bit of a deference thing.
I mean, maybe, but he got hurt, so we'll never know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Bo's letting this back. I think this was the intended outcome because they decided to run Sam Horn up the middle on a QB draw. I think this was their master plan the whole time. They're like, oh yeah, he'll break on that, and then we'll just switch to Bo. Controversy over.
So, listen, I'm also a hater, so I don't want to take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. If you're an optimistic person, I guess. Central Arkansas is like one of the worst week one teams that are playing. Like, even for FCS teams, like, they're terrible. So what am I supposed to take away from this outside of like obviously FBS level quarterback diced up a terrible SCS defense and looked good doing it and was able to show the athleticism that we know he has. Like, he was fine. He was good. He was expected. Like, Matt Zollers came in his first freaking start, went 3 for 3 for like 60 yards and a touchdown. Like, it's not like it was some challenge. I'd like to see how it goes against like a higher level competition because I this doesn't answer my questions about Bo Prabula. You just get a great like stat line.
Real quick, because I know people might be freaking out about Ahmad Hardy. Do we expect the split with him and Jamal Roberts to continue for a few weeks here for the whole season? They both Hardy had 14 snaps to Jamal Roberts 11. Hardy had 11 carries to Jamal Roberts 8. Obviously Hardy basically, doubled up on the, production efficiency and had the touchdown, but are we thinking this is going to be a committee-ish for a lot of the season?
It's a different split than what I was expecting. I mean, based on a lot of offseason reports, Marquise Davis got a decent amount of hype. They were talking him up and stuff. So I thought if anybody was going to be number 2, probably would have been him. But to see Jamal Roberts out there as the RB2, and now they kind of announced him, I think, as co-starters, like once the first depth chart got released. So once that came out, I don't think this was a surprise. But like Chris said, this was a really bad team. And I was a little bit facetious on there, but the Bo Prabula this year's John Mateer. I am also still skeptical on Prabula. But I think there's not a lot you can take away from this game. I want to see what this looks like in a competitive game, because this was just a blowout from the start. If they're in a grinding game, are they going to give the ball to Hardy? Who I thought Hardy looked good. I mean, he had 100 yards, like 106 yards, something like that.
Yeah, 100 something. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think he looked good. I think if it, when the chips are down, are they going to lean on him? I still lean probably. So, I don't know how long this split will continue once games are competitive.
Roberts did have the first 4 carries, right? Like, it wasn't like he was in on the first drive. Is that significant of anything? Because Sam Horn was in on the first drive too. So I don't know. I find it hard to believe that. Just watch the 2 players. One looks like significantly better than the other one running. It's just, I find it hard to believe that they're going to really split. And I mean, Drinkwitz doesn't really rotate unless he has to. And I think they have a guy in Hardy who's pretty good. So it depends, I guess, what your expectation was. To me, this game, I just don't think there's anything to take away from this game in general. It just was so mismatched that I don't think there's strong data points in general. Maybe that Kevin Coleman isn't the wide receiver 1. How about that?
Fair enough. There's a lot of things
an interesting one.
There's a lot of storylines we could talk about. Some of the workhorse backs that potentially emerged, Duke and their passing attack, Army losing to Tarleton State. But we're going to leave that for our shows this week on the Campus to Camp Podcast Network. So if you listen to Jason the Natty, Campus Light, Back to Devi, all those shows I'm sure are going to go over, C2C Live even. I'm sure we'll talk about some of those storylines. I want to get into the rankings, guys. I want to get into our weekly rankings. We worked so hard on them. Chris, I know you were grinding away, getting those right where we want them. So let's flip over to those and let's go right into our quarterbacks, guys. Top 15 quarterbacks for the week. And this is what we've got. Now we have removed the players that have already played. So this is all players that are yet to play this week. And so here's our top 15. John Mateer, Austin Simmons, Demond Williams, Jaden Mayava, Cade Klubnik, Kevin Jennings, Taylon Green, Drew Mestamaker getting that job and right up in the top 10 right off the bat for him. Lenora Sellers, Dante Moore, Drew Aller, Avery Johnson, Nico Martial, Diego Pavia, and Joey Aguilar. Chris, since you are the mad scientist, I guess we'll call you, behind these rankings, anything that you want to kind of explain of these guys or just a player maybe you want to touch on that you feel confident in or anything like that?
Yeah, I've tried to couch as much as I can this week with the idea that everybody has a really good matchup. 95% of teams have a really good matchup. So we're splitting hairs kind of here. So let's take Drew Mestamaker, for example, right? There's questions about his role with Poffenbarger, and is Poffenbarger going to play at all? He might a little bit, but they're playing Lamar and they're favored by
Jackson?
No, different Lamar.
Different Lamar. Okay.
Kendrick.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're playing Lamar, and I'm like, okay, well, there's the opponent question, which is I can only control what I can control based on the schedule. It won't be like this every week. And 2, how much do I trust coaches when they talk about usage? You have to make a decision at some point when there is no data points. And I think you see that in a couple rankings that are in here. I think Mestamaker is an interesting one because I'm just saying I think he's going to play the majority of the game. And there's been some pushback, I think, on that idea where it's okay, well, maybe he's not going to play every single snap. We're going to see more pop. Anyway, all that being said is that we've had to make decisions along the way that indicate a preference for a player or a usage or expectation. So a lot of that is baked into what we're doing here.
On the Mestamaker stuff, just real quick, it strikes me as odd if they name the younger, less experienced player to be the starter, but then are going to give the guy that hasn't been there and is old and on his last year of eligibility packages, even though they're kind of similar from a skill set perspective. That feels weird to me. I think maybe
agree.
We have the right ranking here from these things aren't always logical, but that feels kind of logical to me.
I tend to agree.
Colin, anybody here in the top 15 stand out to you? I mean, Drew Aller in the top 11. I know we've had some guys play already, but Jesus.
I mean, he does well in like these soft matchups, and this is a soft matchup. So having him 11 is probably a little high, but if you wanted to have him top 15, I don't think it's bad at all. I'm starting him in one spot. I think that Joey Aguilar at 15 actually surprises me. I know it's the Tennessee offense, but we don't really think he's that great. And it's against Syracuse, which is outside of LSU, like the toughest matchup on this slate here. Like I think this could be a fairly close game. So, and I don't think he's very good. So I'll be curious to see how that game shakes up. Like I understand why he's there, but that one is probably the one that makes me the most nervous. If I have another option, I'm probably going away from Joey Aguilar.
Just to give everybody also, because we didn't put what their projected fantasy point totals are for this week, which can be found over at campustocanton.com in our weekly CFF rankings. If you look at, for instance, Drew Mestamaker at 8 is projected at 25.05 fantasy points per game. And this is a 4-point passing touchdowns assumed, correct, Chris?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. If you go down, like Joey Aguilar's at 23.85. So what is that? 1.2 point difference between the two? Can even go down, Devin Dampier at 25 is 22.89 projected fantasy points. So it is a very flat kind of tier. We're going to talk about, 1 through 30 here, but you probably can't really go wrong with any of these guys. And I think if you've got a couple of them, maybe you can make your own decision or ask us in the chat and we can walk you through, who to start sit today, because we are going to get into some start sits here in just a little bit. And yeah, I did forget to invite you to drop those comments in the chat as we're going along here, everybody that's tuned in. Let's go to our second grouping here of tight ends, the 16 through 30. Ty Simpson, Sam Levitt, Blake Horvath, Maverick McIver, Gunnar Stockton, Marcel Reed, Devin Dampier, Arch Manning, Brad Jackson, Julian Sayin, Eli Holstein, Ethan Basco, Garrett Nussmeier, Bear Bachmeier, and Brendan Lewis. A lot of first-time starters on this list, which is interesting. But again, a lot of soft matchups. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I think we have Arch and Julian Sayin pretty high. I think I'm sitting them this week. I just don't know what to expect out of those offenses. And I mean, those defenses, they'll be tough. For week one, maybe not the best situation for either of those guys. Do you guys agree, Chris, Colin?
I think you're in a position where you don't have to play Arch. The upside for Arch is like the rushing, which keeps him here. Obviously. So like, I think that there's a higher ceiling than what Quinn Ewers was doing in this offense. Sayin is high because the offense is just always good. And so I understand how they end up this high. But like, I would probably try to look elsewhere if I did, or if I could. You probably don't have to start them. Like, how much risk do you want? How much upside do you want? Like, it's all baked in to that decision. You don't have to start them. Like, I wouldn't be hurt if you started quarterback 45 because they're only separated by like 2 or 3 points, right? Like, there's some level of autonomy that I think start sit decisions require.
Yeah, I agree. I think I understand how they get up into the top 25, both of them. And if we're not talking about Ohio State versus Texas, then they would be even higher just because of the offenses that they're in. But I kind of expect this game to start slow. I expect Ohio State to start kind of slow too, breaking in a lot of new pieces, and Texas too. But I think both of these offenses are going to kind of have to feel each other out and the defenses and stuff. So I agree with Chris. I would lean another direction. Like Garrett Nussmeier, I know that's not an easy matchup, but like I would probably still rather Nussmeier. I would probably sit Nussmeier too if I could against Clemson's defense. But if you make me choose between the 3 of them, I would rather him. A couple guys further down the list, like Baron Morton, isn't too far down the list. I'd probably rather him. Fernando Mendoza, a little further down the list, probably rather him. So I think you have other options.
And interestingly, Fantrax loves Fernando Mendoza this week. I think they had him projected for like 34 points or something.
Dominion.
Yeah, it's a soft matchup. I actually am rolling him out there in a couple spots, but
yeah, I think I'm wrong on I think the numbers, the numbers are too low on MacGyver this week. I just think it should be higher. I just the floor in that offense is like 300 yards passing, and it's just such a soft matchup. He's getting the ding of there's a chance that he could get pulled pretty early because of how soft it is. Western Kentucky doesn't always do that. Like style points kind of matter for them, so it'll be interesting to see how much run he gets. But I would be surprised if he had less than 300 yards passing.
We are getting some somewhat breaking news here this morning from Pete Thamel, who reported that Jake Retzloff is going to be the starter for Tulane this morning.
Wait, was he already named the starter?
Yeah. Yeah. Apparently, it was not already named the starter. I kind of was thinking the same thing. I don't know that we're rolling him out there this week, but any of his, are we considering other pieces of the Tulane offense with him in there? Perhaps.
I would like to wait and see. Tulane, what that looks like, considering he's been on campus for like 4 weeks, a month. Like, has he even been there that long? I guess he's probably been there probably 6 weeks now. But yeah, let's wait and see. So they're favored by 4.5 over Northwestern, and just like I'd like to see the offensive scheme before I roll Retzloff out. Retzloff is way better than Sullivan, so like I'm not surprised that he won the job. I think Sullivan got hurt too. So like I don't know. This wasn't like breaking news, but I wait and see on the Tulane offense.
Yeah, I agree, especially against Northwestern, who like I don't think Northwestern's going to be like a good team this year, but it's a Power 4 team, and they also really like to slow the game down too. So I could just see this game being kind of tough to watch, to be honest. So I also want to take that wait and see approach for Retzloff and any of the other pieces in the offense, like Mari Hayes or anybody else that you might want in there. Maybe future weeks.
The lines on the books for these wide receivers are like in the 30s. Like those just aren't startable options right now. But maybe in future weeks, yeah, Mari Hayes, Shaz Preston is there now. It's like just pay attention. Because I think Retzloff is like not the worst quarterback ever. He's kind of interesting.
It's a ringing endorsement.
Well, I'm trying to be nicer.
That's fair.
Man, new country, new Chris. Awesome. All right, we are getting some comments coming in, and actually, since some of them are QB related, let's drop them in here now, real quick. Matty Ice asks, any concern of starting Cade Klubnik this week? Interesting, tougher matchup, so definitely an interesting question. Chris, what do you think?
No, I don't really have any concern. I'm more aggressive. Well, not even that much more aggressive than the books are. I have him projected for 278 passing yards, 2.5 touchdowns, and 35 rushing yards. Like that's pretty good. Like that'll give you a really solid, nice floor at the quarterback position, and I don't think that's crazy either. LSU's secondary is like revamped, but they were terrible last year. So are they actually good? I don't know. They seem to think they're okay, but time will tell. I can't imagine sitting the quarterback that I took in the first round as my QB1, like even in a tougher matchup. Like Cade gets home with his legs a lot. It might not be it might not be like a super like if you have like top five quarterbacks and like we're having a different conversation, but like I find it hard to believe that I would be sitting Klubnik this week.
All right, I can't imagine too many weeks where Klubnik is our QB5 in this list. And I think the fact that he is our QB5 this week based on projections like highlights a little bit of the concern of the matchup, but it also highlights like how good he can be. And I don't want to call him matchup proof. But this isn't Georgia's defense like we saw in week 1 last year. So I understand the concern just because it's a big game, but I'm still rolling Klubnik out there if I have
All right, and let's see if there's any others here. And Daniel actually just asked, is QB Malik Washington starting today for Maryland? It was announced about 50 minutes ago. Actually just got posted to our news feed as well, that Malik Washington will be starting, but there's no reason to rule him out there. And pretty much if Malik Washington is your best starter, I'd start preparing for next season, I would think, from a fantasy perspective. What do you guys think?
I think he could have a good day today, but like I'd have to be pretty desperate.
He could have a good day. Yeah, just from a process perspective, that feels like a bad idea.
Yeah. I was debating with Chris K about this earlier, balling with my bestie fame. And here and I are going back and forth on the yardage because the yardage props in the books are really high for Washington. And if you're using that to inform your process, you can say, yeah, like I think I could plug him in. I can't get to like close to where they are in some of these yardage for him with a first time starter. Like there's got to be a really, really unique or special player for me to roll out a first time starting quarterback at the FBS level. Like, and I don't know that Washington fits that bill. Like he's not that much of a rusher to like really give you that big of a floor either. Like he's not going to run for like 60 yards today. Or am I representing his skill set? Like I don't think he's that good of a rusher. Like he's can move a little bit, right?
Yeah, he's a decent mover, but I like instinctually and otherwise, I don't know that he's an amazing. You know, I would not classify him as a true dual threat. You know, he's not a statue, but not a dual threat either. So at least that's from what we saw in high school. I think that that's what we can go on. So, all right, let's I think. Oh, and then someone asked. Dawson says, "Who are you starting between DJ Lagway, Miller Moss, and Ty Simpson?"
Simpson for me, I think. I just like the offense a little bit better, and I worry Louisville is just going to roll up. Or the Eastern Kentucky, I think, is who they're playing. Like, I could see them just like rolling up on them and running the ball a ton and pulling Moss. Lagway's been banged up a little bit. Like, I know that's a soft matchup, but I kind of want to see it first. So I would
not
lean
Lagway.
Simpson.
Yeah, I totally am with you on Lagway. Like I not interested till I see how healthy he is. I think Simpson and Moss are both fine. I actually think they're both floor plays. Like Moss is probably going to give you like you can expect to come out of the week with at least like 250 yards and like 2 touchdowns, which isn't great, but like it's also something. I think Ty Simpson probably gives you that as well. I don't know. This is another. How much do you? A lot of this conversation will probably center around this today, which is how much weight do you give players for stuff we haven't seen, right? Like, I think Ty Simpson is a good rusher of the football. Like, I think you're going to get points on the ground. And like, I'm not like that's not a popular opinion. So I think there's a floor for Ty Simpson to get you like 2-3 points on the ground, like consistently each week rushing the ball. That like Moss does not have that. And like, I think there's more ceiling to Simpson too. I just like, that's my expectation. He's going to get you like 20-30 yards.
All right. Let's go to our running backs here, guys. Top 15 here on the week. And again, we have already excluded all the names that have played already. These are the remaining matchups. Desmond Reed, our top projected guy this week in the city game against Duquesne. Mekhi Hughes, Wayman Jordan. That's what I'm calling him, man. I don't know.
No, that's fine.
I live here. I don't know.
I know you do. I know you do.
We're going to talk about Robert Morris here in a few minutes too, as Pittsburgh is all over the place here today. Nicholas Singleton for Dylan Carson, Wayshawn Parker, Kyson Brown, Isaac Brown. As far as I know, no relation, but Colin and I will call anybody related for a couple of bucks. So Anthony Hankerson, Kamari Moulton, Davian Gauss, Justice Haynes, Jeremiah Love, Bryson Donaldson, and Yassine Willis round out that top 15 there. Chris, I'm going to come to you first again here. I know you kind of already qualified generally how the rankings are working this week, but anything with running back that you want to touch on?
I had to manually lower Wayman Jordan's numbers. I couldn't in good conscience have him as the RB1 on the week. Like, I just couldn't.
Says who?
It like, I don't know what the split's going to be with him and Eli Sanders. Like, I think it's going to be Wayman Jordan, and like, it's a really soft matchup either way. Like, they're 35-point favorites over Missouri State. But it is kind of like a little scary to roll out first time FBS starter, at least. I don't know. There's a lot of really strong matchups today. I don't think you're going to see like 30 touch performances, although nobody else here is PJ Fleck. So like they're not going to give their RB1 30 plus touches in a meaningless non-con game. I think you're going to see probably limited but efficient workloads for most of these players today. So with that also could mean that the floor is lower. Like if they get 10 touches, but not one of those touches is a touchdown, like you're looking at maybe like 100 yards and like that's 10 points, but like still. The one that I think people are going to react to, I think it's Bryson Donaldson. Like he wasn't really great last week. And I think there's questions about whether he's the bell cow. I thought their usage of him was actually encouraging. So I'm really not that concerned with his usage in the context of the offense. I'm way more excited about the offense, but the offense wants to be rush heavy. So like that's good for Donaldson. I just don't know if we're going to get as many scoring opportunities.
Fair enough. I think that's good. Moulton, I think, is an interesting one. You know, there were some rumors that maybe he wasn't even the guy, and that he's been dealing with a hamstring, I believe, was what he had been bothering him so far this summer. Chris, what do you have what's your split there? Can you share that to the group in terms of him, Jasmine Patterson, et cetera, et cetera?
I would guess that it's pretty heavy Moulton based on him being ranked in the top 10. But a lot of good running backs have already played. So like, yeah, that's kind of how I would couch this. Yeah, the rushing split is 57% Mullen. So that's a pretty good chunk. They just historically rely on one guy. So that's kind of just saying, well, if I think they're going to do it, and I think Kamari Moulton's the best of them, then there we go. But Moulton started last year too. Like this is not it was Moulton or LaShawn Williams started last year. I think it was Moulton.
I think it was Moulton as well that started. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, there's a chance that like they Wally Pip like that. I'm not convinced on Moulton season long, but I mean, with the information we have now, like that's kind of how I project it. And I mean, with him playing Albany, like there could be a floor here, even if it is the RB2, which I don't expect, but still.
Colin, would you roll out Yassine Willis this week against Tennessee?
No, I would not. Like I like Yassine Willis, and I think like long term, like on the season, he's going to be a good play. Probably a top, 24, 36 like running back, like RB2, RB3 most weeks. But against Tennessee, and I know Tennessee's defensive front lost a couple pieces, but I still think this is going to be a pretty solid defense. And I also just want to see this Syracuse offense before I make any like definitive decisions. Like I think they're going to be more run heavy than they were last year. I don't think they're going to sling it around like they did with McCord and all those wide receiver weapons. Like this is going to be a different looking offense, I think. And I think that's going to favor Willis, but I want to see it first. And in this tough of a matchup, like I think I'm going in another direction here.
Cassidy asked, are the Dukes covering the spread in the City game today? 39.5. No, Pitt is going to cover that, I think. And actually, I look kind of like the under of 57.5 because I don't know how much Duquesne's going to score, but that's different conversation.
What is Duquesne's mascot?
The Dukes, I think. But in terms of like what the mascot actually is, I don't remember.
Well, I'm sure it's just like some stuffed animal, but I mean, like, they're the Duquesne Dukes, really?
Yeah,
that's kind of lame. Sorry, I mean to defend anybody from Duquesne in here. It's
all right. They're little brother. We don't care. Their logo thing is like an old timey like Duke, but I don't know like what their mask, like what they have on the sideline or whatever. Oh, I guess it is. It's like a lion. It's a creepy looking lion in a hat. Okay, today I learned.
Oh God, that's horrible.
I was not familiar, so even just living right down the road, had no idea.
Yeah, that's horrible. The Duke, God, he is creepy. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail us. I never really thought about it. That's like your dentist's name is Krentis kind of mascot naming.
All right, let's go on to the back half of our top 30 running backs here. And again, guys that have already played excluded here. Jonah Coleman, Kedrick Riscano. I think we can talk about that one here in a minute. Rachel Faison, fresh off getting that waiver. here at 18. Nate Frazier, Javian Thomas, Deshaun Bishop, Joe Jackson, Jacoby Williams filling in for Quentin Joyner here this season, Caden Durham, Jaheim White, Ayo Adiye. Apologize if I was incorrect on that pronunciation. Trey Wisner, Lincoln Pear, Adam Randall, and then Julian Gray here rounds out the top 30. Is this a Riscano? Do you have a good split on him there, Chris? Never wrong, just early guy.
Yeah, we like some of his receiving usage too, which I think gets him here. I mean, if you believe that he's the RB1, then I think he's in for a really big day, and I believe that. It's not like the softest matchup ever, but it's pretty darn soft considering, we get FCS teams this week. So it can't be the worst, but it's among the worst. I don't expect Hawaii to contain Arizona really much at all. And I think that there is receiving usage here that is really dictating what, I have him projected for 22 receiving yards. And I think that gives you kind of a nice floor. I keep talking about floor in this context because I just don't know that touches are going to be there. But yeah, I like Riscano this week, and I think he's the RB1.
Tristan in the chat, longtime listener, first time caller, I believe is how he describes himself. Not expecting much usage for Jaheim White this week. What are we thinking there?
So this was a really tough one to handicap because there's a lot that goes into this West Virginia situation. West Virginia has no healthy backs on the roster. So are they really going to roll out Jaheim White 15 plus times in a matchup they're favored by 40? I find that hard to believe, especially if they want him to be the guy long term, for the rest of the season. They just don't have enough healthy backs, I think. And so the question then, who rotates in? I think they're going to get everybody touches. He's obviously still in the top 30, right? He's probably projected for 16, 17 points. Something like that. It's just, I don't know what the usage is going to be this week. I think it's pretty hard to project.
Yeah, just to follow up with that, we have him right now projected at 14.97 fantasy points. So in a PPR. So still
80 yards and touchdown, 90 yards and touchdown. I don't think that's unfair.
Yeah. And Andrew was commenting as well. But yeah, I think you answered those questions. Adam Randall. How do we feel about that experiment today, Colin? We're going to talk about some underdog plays later. I think I kind of like his lowers. It feels like not the ideal matchup for him as a rusher. You're kind of hoping for some receiving upside maybe there, Chris and Colin. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that the long-term hope for Adam Randall, just in general for his fantasy value, is he gets a good amount of receiving work. Now, Dabo said in the offseason, part of the reason for this switch is because position switch for Randall is because he's good with the ball in his hands. But there's a difference between catching the ball on a short little slant or out in the flat, out in space, and then being good with the ball in your hands and taking the handoff up the middle and being good with the ball in your hands. And I think Randall is more of the former, but I think Clemson will try to get him the ball in space and let him do some work. But is this the matchup where A, you want to test that out, and B, is this the matchup where he can do that successfully? LSU has athletes on the outside that I think can help to contain him. So now you're looking probably this week more at what can he do between the tackles. And I don't think he's that good of a running back overall. So I'm probably not rolling him out this week. I don't think RB29 is a bad ranking for him by any means. But I think you'll probably have some better options this week. And then just wait until Clemson just plays all their cupcakes. They play the Citadel and whoever else, and they start rolling it up on those teams. And those are the matchups where you're going to want to play Randall.
Yeah, I don't love his projection.
There's nothing behind him either, though, really, right? It's hard to give a bigger split to other guys. Yeah,
he's RB40 after everybody else got removed, which on the week, that feels pretty fair.
That does. And that's the other thing you just have to keep in mind with these, where, most weeks won't necessarily be like this outside of a couple of the MAC guys potentially, but this is such a heavy week for games already being played. All right, guys. So here's what we're going to do. We have receivers and tight ends still to talk about. We're going to take a little bit of a break. When we come back, we're going to hit those up. We're going to talk some Underdog, make some game picks, injury update, betting, all of that here right after we return. So we'll be right back. Welcome back in. I'm gonna be honest. We were just gone so long because Colin took forever to get a coffee. Like I'll be straight with our listeners. I think that's the best way to attack this. It took him a hot minute. So, but he's back.
Beans myself.
You were muted for part of that, Colin. So.
Oh, sorry. That's fair. I was grinding the beans myself. Had to do the slow drip. So it took a while. French press, Chris. You can appreciate that, right?
Yeah, we're more espresso people, so I'm here for it.
All right. To remind everybody, we just got done talking quarterback and running back rankings for the week. If you guys have some start sit questions as we're going through all of these, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We're going to move through wide receivers up next here. So let's fire up that top 15. And here they are. And again, reminder, we have everybody that has already played out of these rankings. So that just noted. Jordan Tyson, top dog this week: Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, Caleb Douglas, Eric McAllister, Corey Rucker, Trent Walker, Denzel Boston, Miles Coleman, Antonio Williams, Devin Boyson, Caden Lee, Trell Harris, Matthew Henry, and Junior Vander Ross. Man, I just love that Western Kentucky logo. It's so Big Red's just the man. Chris, we'll come to you first here. Anything about the wide receivers you want to touch on?
No, to me, honestly, they look correct. I think that this is an area where maybe we're a little aggressive on Virginia's passing offense, but I mean, you look at which behooves me that Chandler Morris had a prop of 300 passing yards as a powerful quarterback. Here nor there. Obviously, receiver's gonna benefit from that, and I think it's gonna be Trell Harris. So he's kind of an interesting name here. We project Caden Lee to be the one. Like, I think he's going to be top target at Ole Miss. I don't know that I feel like 100% confident in that, but I feel like pretty good in saying that. I just think he's the better player. But everything else I think is pretty straightforward, to be honest. I think that your top wide receivers are your top wide receivers, and I think Tyson could have like a – remember it was week 1 last year where Tedero McMillan had like a 300-yard game? I think could do something like that. Yeah. I just don't know if their defense is bad enough to keep Northern Arizona in where we get 300, but I could see like a monster game.
Calling your guy Eric McAllister their top 5. Talk about that or anything else here?
Yeah, I think Eric McAllister being top 5 surprises me a little bit, but A, we removed like anybody who was ranked ahead of him, and B, I think he's going to have a really good year. The biggest thing for me with this matchup, and I'm rolling McAllister out where I have him, so I'm not like worried about him at all. But the biggest thing with this matchup is I don't know what to expect from UNC's defense. Like, Bill Belichick made his hay in the NFL for decades and has Super Bowl titles because of his defensive prowess. Argue Tom Brady in there, whatever, however you want to do that. But like, he is a defensive mastermind. Like, that's what Belichick does. But can he translate that to the college level? And can he translate that in week 1? I don't know. So I am comfortable rolling out McAllister there. Top 5 feels maybe a little bit aggressive, but I don't hate it. I don't hate it at all. The other one that stands out to me is Vanderos against Kentucky. I think Vanderos, I'm a little bit worried about that split between Vanderos and Trayvon Rudolph that they bring in. And then obviously that matchup against Kentucky. Now, they're going to be throwing the ball a decent amount, I would think, because I think Kentucky will. I don't know if Kentucky's going to stomp them because I don't know if Calzada is capable of doing that. But Kentucky should win this like fairly comfortably. And so that should game script for Vanderos, but I would worry about playing Vanderos personally.
All right. Let's see if there's anybody in the chat has dropped a wide receiver question. Well, somebody did ask Javian Thomas, the Cal running back versus stout Utah defense. I mean, again, you have to remember this is a little lower down the list. He's probably like RB, 40-ish for the week.
Yeah, I don't love him this week. I would have to remember where he is, but yeah, I'm not rolling him out.
That's really the only wide receiver we have so far. McEwen or Stribling, somebody asked. Now, Caden Lee starting on this team. Caden Lee obviously up there, projected, top 15, 18, whatever, this week.
I think you can start both and be okay. Like we have Dejon Stribling projected as wide receiver 69, 13 points.
Nice.
We have McEwen's the other one.
Yep.
As wide receiver 55. Oh, no, sorry. No. Wide receiver 91.
91.
So yeah, I think I would prefer. I think I would lean with the projections say. I would start Stribling. I just don't want to be starting UTSA players against Texas A&M. Like to me, that's asking for like a 4 for 17 game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you can start Stribling and Lee and expect decent games out of both of them. But if you're starting both of them, like I feel fairly confident that one of those two is going to be the wide receiver one there. So I think one of those two could have a really big game. I'm probably with Chris and I lean a little bit more Lee, but it wouldn't shock me at all if Stribling ended up being the wide receiver one there and had like 100 yards and a touchdown or two this week. It wouldn't surprise me. So I would probably rather roll out both of the Ole Miss guys, get a little bit of a floor from one of them and a nice ceiling on the other, than roll out UTSA's wide receiver 2 against Texas A&M.
Yeah. Also, like Austin Simmons is our second highest ranked quarterback. Like we expect a lot from this Ole Miss offense today. I think you can start almost any piece in it and feel okay.
Kiffin likes to run up the score in these games. So
yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if they drop like 50, 60 points.
All right. 16 through 30 here. Deion Burks, Elijah Surratt, Eugene Wilson, Kenny Johnson, Josiah Freeman, Chase Roberts, Chris Bell, Betheli Ashlock, Aaron Anderson, Rashid Williams, Ted Hurst, Easton Messer, Brady Cluse. Scudero made it on the list. Man, who did the wide receiver one?
Colin? That was me. Hands up. Missed that one.
And Jace Brown around at the top 30 here. Ashlock, worried at all if Alejado does not go? I think I've benched all of my Hawaii receivers if I could this week.
If he doesn't go, yeah, I wouldn't play him. So it sounds like he's going to try to play. And I think if you have Ashlock, then you probably roll him out. You probably have other options. So like wide receiver, the secondary, tertiary options this week in good offenses are like playable because of the like lopsided matchup situation. I don't know. I'm not in love with Ashlock this week, regardless of whether Alejado plays, because Alejado's be banged up no matter what. But it's not that Arizona's good defense. It's just that I'm a little skeptical about Hawaii as the juice, period.
Very, very fair.
So let me ask you a question, Austin. What do you think of Kenny Johnson this year? Wide receiver going against Kane today.
I kind of like him. I think it's just going to be hard to figure out which weeks are going to be big weeks for him. Like you're always going to feel like he can get right around 8 to 12 points, but there's going to be a few where he does significantly better than that. I think it's just going to be difficult to figure out which matchups that's going to happen in. But I'm a little lower on him than like Pitt fandom as a whole. Like he's a good athlete and all that, but I don't think he's a great wide receiver. But just my 2 cents on him.
Yeah, I don't love the Josiah Freeman rank. He's going to get nuked into oblivion if Fresno State doesn't show any offense this week like they did last time. There's a good chance that like he gets just wiped off the board. It's a matchup thing, implied team total. Like he's a wide receiver 1 for Fresno, but like it's a little scary considering as a longtime EJ Warner fan, I didn't like what I saw.
That guy, the collection of schools that EJ Warner has started for is like a who's who of places I wouldn't send my son. Not that they're like bad, like Temple, Rice, and Fresno. Like I don't know, I'm sending my kid to any of those to play football if I can help it. So, come on, Kurt, help your kid out. Where did he play? Northern Iowa?
Oh, I have no idea.
Something like that. Yeah.
So
also plays I would not send my child.
Better than Pops. I guess that's all we can say there. And are we just real quick, Chase Roberts and Bear Bachmeier did make these lists. We trusting Bear Bachmeier a little bit today? A little bit?
You could certainly have a worse starting matchup.
Yeah.
The difference between Bear and someone like Washington is I think Bear just has a safer floor. in this type of matchup where Portland State is like significantly worse than FAU is, who Maryland is playing. Like to compare the situations about freshmen starting. Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt that he's going to play the majority of the snaps either. So like, I like both Roberts, and if I'm in a pinch, I'm happy to throw in Bear-Bachmeier.
All right.
I think Roberts would worry me just slightly, just because I think that they could get up big and roll Portland State. So like LJ Martin, I think would be a great play, but and Chase Roberts is going to be the wide receiver one there, so like somebody's going to have to catch passes.
How are they getting all those points?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair, but I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about it.
I think that's fair too. Like relying on a freshman starter at all is sketchy.
Jim asks, who would you start between Jacoby Lane at Missouri State and Ryan Wingo at Ohio State? I think Wingo.
Start Jacoby Lane.
Oh, okay. Let's hear why.
Wide receiver 2 in a aggressive passing offense. I have Jada Mayava projected for like 330 yards or 320 yards or something. So like those yards have to go somewhere. And I think Lane is a much higher floor player in this situation. I think Ohio State can cover Wingo or like keep him limited enough where you're looking at maybe like 70 and a touchdown. And while that's great, like I think Lane has like the floor and the ceiling here. Like I just don't see a path for Wingo to like really, really excel here.
I think they're just gonna try to get the ball in Wingo's hands. I think they have to today.
It's very possible.
I don't think they're gonna run the ball well. I think they're gonna have to pass it. No Emmett Mosley. Jack Endries, we like him, but first game with Texas, I think there's a real shot that Wingo and Moore. I mean, Wingo, they might use him as an extension of the run game if they can't get the run game going. That's kind of what I'm thinking on him. So,
is it a PPR league? Because this actually probably matters for this question.
Yeah. Jim, let it.
PPR is definitely slanted Wingo because Lane's probably only going to get like 4 or 5 catches. They're all just going to be like down.
They'll all be touchdowns though, so it's fine because that's
Yeah.
what he does. Jim says it is a PPR league. So, all right. And then he did also ask Daryl Gill, Jonte Cook, or Wingo.
I think I'm also going Wingo here in this group. I don't like I said earlier, I don't want to trust the Syracuse passing offense yet against Tennessee. Like and I agree with Austin. I think Wingo's gonna get like a lot of short catches, be an extension of the run game. And I think they're gonna have to use him more on the outside because they'll have Caleb Downs kind of floating over the middle of the field to lock a little bit of that down. So a lot of short screens for Wingo. And I don't know who the wide receiver one for Syracuse is going to be between Gill and Cook. So I want to let that play out too.
Yeah, I agree. I need to know who the wide receiver one is. I actually think so. I was on Gill all off season as the wide receiver one, and I think I've kind of come around on it potentially being Jonte Cook. It feels gross, but I think he might just be like a really good player whose head was like not screwed on straight, and now like maybe he's overcome some of that.
Let it wash over you, Chris. Let it wash over you. You'll feel so much better. You just would you
be shocked if he had 1,000 yards this year?
Yes, I'd be a little shocked at 1,000.
Would 800? You be
800?
No, I think 800 can play. I don't know. I just think there's a path here. The quarterback play probably isn't good enough to support him, but I think Jonte Cook could have like a real resurgence.
Anthony Edmonds, TJ Harden, or Duke Watson?
I lean Evans because he's not the slot wide receiver. Yeah, not Harden. I lean Evans because he's the slot wide receiver in that Levy offense, and that's kind of what we want. Watson against Eastern Kentucky, I think, is interesting because, like, how much are they going to roll Isaac Brown out there? Like, I think this could be a fairly even split in a really soft matchup. So I would say Evans for safety for me. Watson if you really want a ceiling play.
Interesting, because I view them different. I view them the opposite almost. Like I think Watson is going to get like 10 touches, and he's probably going to get like 80 yards. They're just going to like roll over Eastern Kentucky. But like I don't know that Duke Watson's getting like double-digit touches today. I find that kind of hard to believe. I think they'll rotate an RB3 sooner than that. Like I think it could be like 10 Brown, 10 Watson, or like 9 Brown, 9 Watson, and then like 8, 4, 3, whatever for the rest of the roster. With Evans, I think you're looking at a player who, like, we think that he's the wide receiver one here. Like, we're pretty sure he's the starting slot. But I feel like I've just been burned so many times by some of these depth charts where, like, I don't know. I would play. So personally, I would play Evans. I like him. I have him projected as the wide receiver one. But like, I do think Watson is the floor play if that's what you're going for. I think Evans can have a big day. It's a bad Southern Miss team.
And Cassidy asked any Miles Coleman love.
Well, for like 8 or
yeah,
something,
he was on the first.
Sir, he was on the first tab there. So yes, sure.
Wide receiver like 8, 9. Yeah.
I mean, that whole offense is gonna. Yeah, I mean, you could. I don't really know what the rotation looks like exactly behind him. I would, if I had Landon Sides, I needed a wide receiver, like I think he'd be a guy that I'd throw in there.
Well, I'd be worried about Sides, which I think we're going to talk about in a little bit later in the injury segment. Yeah.
Oh, is he going to miss the game?
I don't know. They like all week they're saying like he's working his way back from injury. So I just don't know what his like. I benched him. I think
either
everywhere. Yeah.
He what?
Was not listed on the depth chart.
Oh yeah, he wasn't listed on the depth chart. You're absolutely right. That's oversight on my part. My bad.
All right, and tight ends. Let's touch on tight ends here real quick. Eli Stowers. What'd you say? Let's touch on tight ends. Yeah. Phrasing. Eli Stowers, Kenyon Sadiq, Tavion Galloway, Tradez Green, Jack Endries, Camden Overton Howard, RJ Maryland, Ty Lockwood, Luke Reynolds, Addison Ostrenga, Patrick Obermeyer, Decker DeGraff, Marlon Klein, Grayson Barnes, and Max Klar are top 15 here this week. I think this is about what you would expect that most of these names to be in the top 15. I don't think there's anything terribly shocking here, Chris. I mean, you're the tight end guy and the projection guy, so double whammy on this one. What do you think on that?
We really like Tavion Galloway. It's hard to get him like out of being that high. I will certainly adjust next week if his usage is just not what we expected at all. This is just an offense I kind of think is going to utilize the tight end, and I think he's a good player. So like this ranking is probably surprising to some and like fairly aggressive, but I really like the player, and I'm starting him in quite a few spots. The number came in low for Max Klar, like 15 is a reflection of Ohio State's previous tight end usage, which was almost non-existent. And that they generally have like a really good third wide receiver. I don't know that that's the case this year. I think he's potentially the third option. So like I think tight end 15 is like way too low for him, but there is an element of we need to actually see Ryan Day utilize the tight end in this offense. So I think that's a fair like hedge, but I would probably start Claire if I had him, or Clar, however you pronounce it, if I had him.
Grayson Barnes surprises me a little bit, just because I don't know anything really about him, and I don't recall Rich Rod using the tight end a lot. I mean, it's a soft matchup, so like if you have him, sure, like roll him out. But I think that one surprises me a little bit.
He's not really a tight end. Like he's a wide receiver. At least he's not big enough to be a tight end, I should say. Like he's like 6'4", 220. He's like a jumbo wide receiver. He's not. He doesn't line up in line like. I think he was a wide receiver previously at Northern Illinois too, and then maybe he was converted by the last staff at West Virginia. But he's technically a wide receiver, but not really. And it's really hard to crack tight end. It's really not hard to crack tight end rankings if you're projected as a wide receiver in a high octane of passing off, or a high team implied team total.
Andrew asked, are we worried about Royer after last night? No.
Not really.
No, that Cincy passing offense didn't look good, but like I still think Royer is going to be a top tight end this year.
Yeah, I just think he's too important to the. We already have proof of concept for Royer, so with almost all the same pieces in place, so not really.
All right, let's talk Underdog, guys, and we do have a promo code over there for you if you've never used that before. Campus to Canton gets you, or no, C2C. Sorry, promo code C2C gets you a deposit match up to $250. We have our picks here. The three of us, we each picked 3 plays that we like the most. Colin, why don't you kick us off and tell us what you like on their board this week?
Yeah, so the first one that stood out to me was Le'Veon Moss lower than 68.5 rush yards. I know they've been saying like, oh, he's progressing and everything like that, but has he even practiced like full contact? Like I thought he was in street clothes during their one scrimmage, and he was in non-contact jersey for a while too. Like I don't think UTSA is the game that you roll him out there in week 1. Like maybe he gets a couple carries just nominally if he's healthy. But if they're going to use him like a bell cow and he's going to be healthy, they're going to need him later on in the year. So this is just more of, I don't think he's going to get enough run to get 68.5 rush yards. Like if he even plays at all, like he may not.
So he said himself that he was 100% healthy this week. Now, I don't know what degree Le'Veon Moss has as a doctor, but he himself said he was 100%.
I'm 100%. I'm 100%.
Yeah, I like
that. Yeah.
I don't know. I think he's gonna play, but I understand the skepticism.
Probably went to the same med school Jesse Morse went to. Not great. Not great.
My other play, Carnell Tate higher than a half of a rushing receiving touchdown. Last year when we saw Texas against Ohio State, like Texas made it a point to try to shut down Jeremiah Smith. They said somebody else needs to beat us, and somebody did. I think they're probably going to take that same approach this year again, knowing that Ohio State doesn't have that same level of running back duo to lean on. They don't have the same type of guy to like Travion Henderson to dump it off into space. He's going to take it, 60 yards to the house. So I think they're going to try to shut down Jeremiah Smith and say somebody else is going to need to beat us. So I think that's going to lead to opportunities for Carnell Tate. So I think he's going to get a touchdown this week. This is one of my favorite plays this week, to be honest. And then, as I always say, that that's the one that misses. But I feel pretty good about Tate getting a touchdown this week. And then my last one, Kedrick Riscano, higher than 50.5 rush and receiving yards. We talked about Riscano. He's ranked fairly highly. I think he's like in our top 15 running backs, at least out of like the guys who are playing today. But we think he's going to be the RB1 there. We feel pretty good about that. This is a pretty soft matchup overall against Hawaii, and he does get the receiving usage. So I like this number a lot for receiving and rushing yards, because I could see him getting 15 to 20 receiving yards, and then he only needs like 30 to 40 rushing yards to hit this. So I feel pretty good about this one too.
I would have put that one on mine if you did not.
Wow.
Get to the sheet first. The time zone difference got the edge.
Yeah, you're in the future, Chris. You have no excuses.
I had no excuse if I miss any of them then.
What do you like today, Chris?
So I like Carson Beck's higher 1.5 pass TDs. This number, it's probably should be shaded to the higher more than it is, right? Like it's just flat. I expect, based on everything that we have been told out of camp from Miami, they're going to pass. They like the way Beck has looked. Okay. So if I think he's going to throw for like 250 yards, and I'm expecting him to probably have like 2 touchdowns. That's what the line says. That's what the implied probabilities say. I think it's mostly math getting us there. That's my expectation. I don't think the offense is going to be as aggressive as it was with Cam Ward, but I still think it's going to be pretty pass heavy. That's just something Shannon Dawson does, offensive coordinator. I also like Bryant Wesco higher, 3.5 receptions. I think Clemson's going to throw quite a bit, and I think Wesco is potentially emerge as the wide receiver 1 here, or like the 1B to Antonio Williams. I think you saw down the stretch when games really picked up and mattered. Like he had like eight reception games, 5 reception games. Like he became a big piece of this offense down the stretch when they like needed to start winning some of these games. Like he was really important in the South Carolina game. They ended up losing, unfortunately, for Clemson. But I think his usage is going to be pretty impressive this year. I'm expecting a pretty big season. I think it gets started on a good note today. Deuce Robinson higher. These are all just really gross, actually. If you want to take pieces of this, Carson Beck, who had Tommy John surgery, and Deuce Robinson, who's on a Thomas Castellanos passing offense. I just think there's value here as well. 2.5 receptions is low if you expect that he's the wide receiver 1 for this offense, and I do expect that to be the case. I think he is really. I don't know that he's a special player, but Florida State is talking like he's a special player. And if they believe that, I think they're going to force feed him targets. I think he gets like 6 to 7 targets today as well. And I just hope that he catches more than like 30% of those or like 50% of those. Like that's really the bet that I think you have to make here. Because I think the usage is going to be there in a game script where they're 14-point dogs as well. So I don't love Thomas Castellanos. I just think it's like he can volume his way there.
The 3 I took, you guys are optimists today. You guys are glass half full. You know me, I'm glass half empty. Chase Sal lower than 38.5 receiving yards. There is a real chance that last week the Iowa State snap counts were a little off just based on the weather and all of that kind of stuff in terms of the amount of tight ends they were rolling out there. But Sal only played 13 snaps last week. This isn't an offense that plays a ton of tempo, that passes the ball a ton, that runs a ton of plays. So if he's only playing, 20% or fewer of offensive snaps, don't feel great about that 38.5 receiving yard number. So I'm going to take the under on that, or the lower than, excuse me. Adam Randall, 69.5 rush yards. I'm going to take the lower on that as well. It's just until we have proof of concept on Adam Randall, the running back, when the other team knows that that's what the game plan is, I'm a little skeptical on him as an actual rusher. So I'm going to take the lower than on Adam Randall's 69.5 rush yards. But I'll take one higher than, just for you guys, for the people out there. I'll take higher than 11.5 fantasy points for Wayshawn Parker. We have him projected for about 18. Our rankings are full PPR, while Underdogs are half PPR, but I don't think the reception stuff is what is buoying here. I think the amount of touches that he's going to get, I think, a touchdown probably in the mix there as well for him. So I like him to clear that 11.5 fantasy points. Quite frankly, I think he might double that, but we'll see. We'll see. But I thought the 11.5 was just too low. And one of those that if he is actually the bell cow, we look back and laugh on at how low that play was. So those are my 3. Gentlemen, thank you for yours as well. And Tristan says a man that goes Carson Beck TD over in week 1 is the type of degenerate behavior that I'm here for. And quite frankly, I think I agree. All right. So Chris, you're the betting guy. Can you give us some plays that you like today? Overall, that people can go, put some money down and, feel a little bit better, the wallet a little heavier by midnight tonight.
I'm tailing your picks, by the way, today. So no pressure.
Okay. Let's do it. God, we just went from Carson Beck being the degenerate. Let's go with the Temple money line.
You're disgusting. You're disgusting.
So it was minus 120 when I got it. It's now being bet by somebody. I don't know who, but it's now spread that 3 in some spots. But
it was called.
I like Temple today. I just think they might have something with this power run stuff that they're running, and I don't know that UMass is the team to keep up. Grant Jordan didn't win that quarterback job, and that surprised me a little bit. Brandon Rose is the starter, and I don't like. I've seen enough of Brandon Rose to know that like Brandon Rose is not the guy. I like Temple today, and I kind of like them a little bit more probably than most people do for the season. So that's gross, but got to keep the theme going. I also like Virginia Tech, South Carolina under 52.5. I believe there's one or two still out there. I think this is going down as well. The issue that I have with the total sitting at this number is it's gone back and forth between 51 and 52, and like 52 kind of the key number that I'm trying to key in on. So if it's higher, I'm going to go lower. And it's bounced around. It got steamed up from 48. I understand why this number is or like has trended upward. I just think we've hit the point where it's just too much because South Carolina is a run heavy team who will utilize their backs, will throw a heck of a lot less. We're average at pace last year. I expect them to maybe be even slower this year. Virginia Tech I don't really trust this offense. Like, it's a new offense now. The offense wasn't good prior. So, like, what are we going to get from Kyron Drones and co? I don't know. I just feel like asking them to put something large enough to cover a total in the 50s feels like quite a bit, even though the spread's 7.5, right? Like, South Carolina lost a lot on defense, but I don't think their defense is bad. So I think they can stuff Virginia Tech enough. And then I think I had another one.
Oregon State, 1.5.
Yeah, I like Oregon State. I just think there's more experience on that team than there is at Cal. And I'm not fading all of the true freshmen starting today, but like this is one that I'm fading. I don't know that he won the job as much as Devin Brown lost the job. And I just think Devin Brown's not very good. So put a couple of these together, and I think give an Oregon State team who has experience at the quarterback position, even if I don't love Malik Murphy, has two really good backs. It makes sense that I think Oregon State should be favored by maybe closer to 3.
Justin in the comments asks, Mox, how's the fishing in Paris? I know you can't do the dynamite fishing over there, so that's probably right off the bat.
Yeah.
Cutting into your...
I've seen people pulling some catfish out of the river here. Not sure I would eat it.
How many heads does it have?
How many what?
How many heads does it have?
Well, so they cleaned up the river last year for the Olympics, so it's apparently the cleanest it's ever been. So we'll see about that. But I'm not eating anything out of it. I'm not going in that river. I'm not trying to get a second head.
All right. There we go. So, Chris, thanks for the betting pick. So here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to listen. Corey has dropped his Devy segment for those who haven't tuned in before. Gives us about a 5 to 6 minute pre-recorded segment every single week, just talking about some of the players he's watching for their NFL draft potential. We're going to do that. We're going to go to commercial. Then when we come back, we're going to do just real quick any injury match or watches that we're seeing pop up here before game time. And then we're going to pick some of the biggest games of the day. So we'll be back right after the Devy sesh. This is the Tailgate.
What is going on, C2C family? Corey Prairie here from the Campus to Canton Devy team, and we are back with another season of college football, and that means another season of the Devy Sesh coming to you every week, where I'm going to be taking a look at a few things every week with a little bit of a Devy lens. Now, there's a ton of storylines to get to in week 1, so let's not waste any more time. Let's go. If we're talking Devy, the first place we usually got to start with every year is the freshmen that are coming in. They present the ultimate mystery box, the ultimate upside, and if they can start their career off on a strong note, it's proven to have correlation to the next level, as well as seeing their value skyrocket heading into the next season. Now, we're heading into week 1 with 3 true freshman quarterbacks starting for a Power 4 team this season. Starting with Michigan's Bryce Underwood, who's probably the most expected of the group, 5-star kid, number 1 kid in the class. I think it would have been a bigger surprise if Bryce actually didn't end up becoming the starter this year, but then we also head over to Cal, where we've got Jaron Q. Segabutele, who was drafted relatively high in your supplemental drafts probably, but somewhat surprisingly beat out former 5-star OSU commit Devin Brown, and he was a relatively raw kid in high school, but maybe Cal is just ready to ride behind the young kid at the helm and live through the ups and downs of the season. And maybe the most surprising of the bunch is BYU quarterback Bear Bachmeier, and this was a kid who actually spent the spring with Stanford, then transferred over to BYU after Jake Retzlaff left. So the fact that he's made such a quick impression is something that you don't actually see very often. Even Georgia was trying to flip this kid at one point, and there could be an element to his profile that was unrecruited due to a bunch of missed time with injury, his senior season of high school, but he's 6'2", 220 pounds. We've got a 54 miles per hour velocity on him, which is a really solid number. Some 70th percentile power metrics, a bit of a dual threat in high school. All in all, a pretty interesting profile that I think is worth monitoring. Now, I'm also going to be keeping an eye on that random freshman who just happens to break out that we weren't expecting, whether that happens early on in the season or the middle of the season. Guys like Emmett Mosley over at Stanford, or Wayshawn Parker last year at Washington State, now at Utah, or even a guy like Malcolm Simmons over at Auburn. These guys we weren't really expecting to break out. Who's that going to be this year? From judging from spring reports and a couple fall reports, I've got a few guys I'm keeping my eye on early on in the season. Starting with a name like Omar Mabson over at Auburn, the running back there who's gotten a lot of buzz early in the spring, 5'9", 210, and was a reclassified from the 2026 class, so very young. And over at Washington, where wide receiver Raiden Vines Bright was recently able to start on Washington's depth chart and could see some early playing time. And then my favorite of the bunch is Malachi Toney over at Miami, who's projected by most outlets exiting fall camp as the starting slot receiver. He's uber young. He was actually another reclassify after a monster junior season, accounting for 1,900 total yards between receiving and rushing. 5'10", 185 pounds, a 4-star composite, just incredible twitch and short area quickness on this kid. His offer sheet included names like Miami, Alabama, Auburn, FSU, Georgia, Kentucky, Michigan, Penn State, Ohio State, all the blue blood programs. He's a really interesting player with a really interesting profile that kind of flew under the radar during this recruiting season. We've also got a ton of new faces in new places in this new era of the transfer portal, and collegiate players are taking full advantage, starting with names like running back Ahmad Hardy, a G5 player who broke out as a true freshman and transferred up to the SEC this year, where we just got to see him go off for 100 yards in his debut with Missouri last night. Or an even more experienced player like Eric Singleton Jr., who's somebody I've talked about a lot on this series through the years, and Auburn could finally bring him the attention I think he deserves. And quite possibly the most polarizing player of this transfer cycle is John Mateer, a player who really changed my mind for the better after I dove into his tape this offseason. For a guy who barely steps into his throws, I found his arm talent popping off the screen. Velocity, different arm angles, different launch points, unset bases, and on top of that, he's probably a kid with 4.5 speed who rushed for almost 1,000 yards last year. There's still a lot of backyard ball to his game, and he can certainly refine his mechanics when he's delivering from a clean pocket, but there's a ton of traits there that the NFL could be enamored with. I wouldn't be surprised if John Mateer is like the Jackson Dart of next year's draft class, with first-round NFL potential. Now, speaking of that 2026 NFL draft class, it's completely ambiguous right now. That's one of the things we're really going to be watching, see who can develop some draft stock throughout the season. Now, the community has started to really settle on a few names near the top, and it'll be interesting to see how these guys kind of perform with the hype they received this offseason. You know, guys like Arizona State wide receiver Jordan Tyson. How does he handle his second year as a full-time starter? Guys like Notre Dame running back Jeremiah Love, how does he handle the increased expectations this year? Even a guy like South Carolina quarterback Lenore Sellers, can he take that next step in his development and become a legitimate first-round prospect? And how about Texas quarterback Arch Manning? Does he come back after a good season, or does he take his ticket to the NFL? He'll have a tough start this week with quite possibly the game of the week, with number 1 Ohio State going up against number 3 Texas. Both teams are looking at a ton of turnover this year, but are loaded with potential superstars. We already know how good Jeremiah Smith is, but can Carnell Tate take a step forward this year? How good can running back James Peoples be? Do freshman Quincy Porter and Bo Jackson get any run in this game? And on the other side of the field, how healthy is running back CJ Baxter for Texas? I'm eager to see how much playing time he's going to get coming off of that major knee injury, and if he could vault himself back up rankings with a strong start. And even wide receiver Ryan Wingo will almost certainly be the top target for Arch Manning, and after seeing a ton of his usage schemed open last year, how does he handle a bigger route tree and higher expectations this year? And honestly, I don't do much tight end talk, but we've potentially got 2 top 3 tight ends in next year's draft class, with Texas tight end Jack Endries and Ohio State tight end Max Clare. This matchup is just loaded with talent and is an absolute must-watch this weekend. That's going to wrap it up for me here, guys. There's so much I'm looking forward to in week 1, and I'm looking forward to breaking it down with my C2C family. So make sure you're checking out the Back to Devy podcast every Wednesday morning, the number 1 Devy podcast on the Campus to Canton podcast feed. Don't let anybody else tell you different. And make sure you're keeping it locked with CampusToCanton.com all season long.
All right. We are back with the Tailgate, brought to you by CampusToCanton.com. Week 1. It's almost here. Kickoff, noon kickoff. We've lost the dead weight. Colin is gone. I will. He's out for the rest of the show here. So Chris, it's just you and me. Just a couple of last minute items to touch on. Injuries. Feels weird to talk about since we haven't had any games yet, but we do have some injuries to discuss. Anything that you're seeing out there on the horizon beyond Dylan Edwards, who we know was already ruled out for this week? We talked about Joe Jackson a little bit in those running back rankings, a guy that you can probably fire up this week. Anybody else out there right now?
I think it's worth paying attention to if Landon Sides is going. Mentioned that briefly earlier. Wasn't on the depth chart. Was injured in camp. I think the big one is Micah Alejado. I wouldn't start him no matter what, but like it does have implications down your lineup. Like the quarterback 2 at Hawaii is not getting it done for your skill position players. Like Jackson Harris, Bafeli Ashlock, Nick Senecal. Like you can't start those guys. So I pay attention to the Alejado news. That would be the big one. That's like kickoffs. Like it's tough.
Yeah, I think you have to bench him. They're saying a high ankle sprain, right? I think is what I saw. So, which it looked like a lot. I mean, I thought like broken foot or
it was
like
bad.
what's the one where you like tear the thing on the bottom of your foot or whatever. Like I thought it was like a real bad injury. So high ankle sprain only, quote unquote. Not as bad as we could have thought. All right, we're gonna pick the big games of the day. We let Matt Bruning in on the action as well. Matt pre-recorded something for us. Full disclosure, I have not watched this.
Oh crap.
All I saw was that this was supposed to be 5 minutes and he sent me a 9-minute file. But Matt's going to pick the big games of the day. We're going to come back, Chris and I. We're going to give our picks on these big 5 here. And then we're going to get you to kick off. So here is Matt Bruning.
All right, Austin, thank you. I'm excited to do this possibly every week, at least on the shows that I can't be live in person with you guys. But Austin, Colin, Chris, you guys are killing it. I wish I could be there talking with you guys about these week 1 matchups, which, let's be honest, are going to be amazing. It's a great, great week of college football. Thursday night was so much fun. Friday night was amazing. How about that Auburn-Baylor game? My goodness, we've got a bunch of great games ahead of us on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday as well with the TCU North Carolina game. But with this segment, my plan is to bring you guys the top 5 matchups that I will be watching every single week. But before we do that, actually, guys, look, I'm sure Austin and Colin and Chris have been telling you, look, it's right down there. Hit that like and subscribe button, all right? Like, subscribe, help us grow this channel. I know you guys are watching. I know you guys love the Tailgate. It's one of the best morning shows of college football on the planet, but at least in the United States, in the Americas, in the entire world. Let's just be honest. We kill it. Hit that like and subscribe button so you guys can help us grow and grow this channel. But let's talk about those top 5 matchups. And number 1, look, you can say maybe it's because I'm a Buckeye homer. I also do like Texas. I do live in Texas. But let's be honest. Texas versus Ohio State is the matchup everybody is looking forward to this week 1. Fairly close as that LSU-Clemson game, which I think is also going to be fun. But let's be honest. Look at it from our perspective here at Campus to Canton. If you go to the C2C winning edge, Texas is the number 1 FBS ranked team in our power rankings, and number 2 right behind them is the Ohio State Buckeyes. Texas comes in 69th in returning production with a 51.72% returning production. And overall, they're a very good team. Ohio State, as I mentioned, number 2 in the power rankings, but they lost a lot, right? A lot of that defense that they brought back, they paid all that NIL money to keep that defense together. They all went to the NFL. Same with a lot of players on that offense. 91st in returning production with 45% of the players returning. My overall top matchup in this game is actually really what Sark does against the defense and what Day does against the defense. I think those two are going to have the biggest outcomes in this game because let's be honest, if we just break it down from a quarterback perspective, sure, we'll give Arch a small bump. I shouldn't even say small, a decent bump above Julian Sand, but Arch is fairly unproven as well. I know his last name's Manning, and we've seen him in moments, at least a little bit more than we've seen Julian Sand, that's for sure. But overall, Arch is still a question mark. He is a player that we don't know that much about. The running game, I think you can probably give to Texas with the room that they have. It sounds like C.J. Baxter is back and healthy, and Texas is raving about him compared to, James Peoples, Bo Jackson, C.J. Donaldson for Ohio State. but the wide receiver room you give to Ohio State. Look, Texas got a lot of really decent guys in that room, but nobody, I think it's not unfair to say, doesn't measure up to Jeremiah Smith or even Carnell Tate. They're number 2. If we go and look at this from just an overall team perspective, offense comes in with the 6th ranked offense overall and the number 1 ranked defense, while Ohio State comes in with the number 3 ranked offense overall and the number 2 ranked defense. Again, this is going to be a great matchup, and I think it's really going to come down to who from Ohio State's wide receiver room can step up if Texas shuts down Jeremiah Smith the way they did in that playoff game. If they do that, we saw it was Travion Henderson and at one point Will Howard step up to give the Buckeyes the lead and help them win that game. Who's the player that's going to do them this one? Is it going to be Carnell Tate? Is it going to be one of the running backs? Because I don't think it's going to be Julian Sain, and I think Texas is going to be able to slow him down. I know right now Ohio State is favored by a 1.5, and I think that's just a home field advantage. I think Texas is going to win this, and I think they're going to win by probably a touchdown. I think it's going to be a really good game, but I do think Texas wins. Let's go over to LSU Clemson. Clemson's getting 4.5 points here, and this is also a very, very good game. LSU, our 4th-ranked team in the power rankings with a 35th-ranked offense, but the 64th-ranked defense, while Clemson comes in as the 5th-ranked team in our power rankings with the number 12-ranked offense, number 30-ranked defense. For me, what this game is going to come down to is, can Clemson stop the rush? We saw that this rushing attack for LSU really started to take off when the true freshman last year, Caleb Durham, really kind of started to prove himself toward the end of the season. If he can do that, I do think Clemson's defense could struggle a little bit with the depth of this LSU Tigers room. Now, don't get me wrong. Malik Neighbors ain't walking through that door. You know, Brian Thomas is not walking through that door. But overall, they still have a decent room. And Garrett Nussmeier, can he take that step forward and put that pressure on the Clemson defense? That is one thing that I will be watching, because I do think it's a really interesting matchup as well, the Clemson defensive backs versus the LSU wide receivers. But let's not look past what Clemson has. Look, been a long time not big fan of Cade Klubnik, but the dude is really good at what he does, and he really improved last year in the Garrett Riley offense. I think he takes another step forward. They have an incredible room with Bryant Wesco and Antonio Williams, really the top 2 leading that room, among others like TJ Moore. Adam Randall in at running back is going to be the key, though. Transition from wide receiver to running back. If they're able to slow that down, I wonder if they're able to get to Cade, because I don't know that Cade makes these big plays that ends up winning Clemson the game. I do think Clemson wins, but I do think it's going to be a close one. We got to hurry this up, because I told Austin I was going to keep this under 5 minutes. Utah versus UCLA. Utah is getting 5 points. Again, I think a very good game, underrated game. Utah coming in as the 34th ranked team in our power rankings, while UCLA comes in as the 61st. Though the offense for us of Utah ranked at 111th, I think that's going to change and go up with what Devin Dampier and Wayshawn Parker can bring to this offense. I think those 2 dynamic playmakers alone are going to make us look at Utah completely different than we have the past couple of years. While when we look over on the UCLA side with the 108th ranked offense overall, they bring in Nico. They have some decent weapons there at wide receiver, which rumors are they could be healthy and playing in this game. I actually think this could be sneakily one of the best games of the weekend, but I'm going to lean on the experience of one Kyle Whittingham, the head coach of Utah, and Devin Dampier and Wayshawn Parker to find a way to pull this out against UCLA. Moving over to Sunday night, Notre Dame versus Miami, another really good game. Notre Dame favored by 2 points in this one. Look, this could be a really, really good game, and I think it's going to come down to the trenches. Notre Dame, the 11th ranked team in our power rankings. Miami, the 8th. Miami, completely rebuilt offensive line. Notre Dame comes in with already a good offensive line and a good defense. The number 5 ranked offense overall and the number 8 ranked defense for Notre Dame going up against the number 1 ranked offense overall in our power rankings with Miami, the 36th ranked defense. Now, that offense is changing as Cam Ward goes into the NFL. You lose his magic. You bring in Carson Beck, who's had his moments, but I think you can still question his elbow and possibly some off-field stuff. Obviously, CJ Daniels, another transfers in from another school. I believe it was LSU into Miami. Now, can he be the wide receiver 1 for them? I'm going to lean toward Notre Dame, who are going to rely on arguably the best running back in college football right now in Jeremiah Love and that defense to win against Miami. And Mario Cristobal losing in week 1. Last game we're going to talk about in this one, TCU versus North Carolina. TCU getting 3.5 points. Bill Belichick and Jordan Belichick, maybe? Who knows? Coaching against the TCU Horned Frogs and Sonny Dykes. TCU, the power ranked team for us, 25th, while North Carolina comes in as the 50th. TCU is the 31st ranked offense overall and the 74th ranked defense, while North Carolina comes in with the 43rd ranked offense and the 83rd ranked defense. Let's start with North Carolina side first. Bring in transfer at quarterback, Gio Lopez, Isaiah Johnson, Nathan Leacock, Jason Robinson, and Dayton Sneed. That's right. If you were looking at me as I read off all those names beside Gio Lopez and you don't know who I'm talking about, that's fair. Very interesting wide receiver room. Running back's not much better as they bring in the transfer from Michigan. I don't know what this team is going to look like. I think you're leaning completely on Bill Belichick trying to figure this out. While you look at one of the most explosive offenses we had last year in TCU with Josh Hoover at quarterback, who threw for over 400 times and just under 4,000 yards. They bring in wide receiver transfer Eric McAllister, who I think is going to have a massive season this year and be a sneaky guy to get drafted early. I think the TCU Horned Frogs win this fairly comfortably. I think this is going to be a great game. Guys, this has been Matt's Minutes. We went over 5. We're going to shorten it up over the next couple of weeks. Enjoy the game picks by Austin, Colin, and Chris, and we'll see you guys again next.
All right. There we go. Thank you, Matt. And now it's our turn, Chris. Let's talk about these games and let's pick them. And first up here, Texas, Ohio State, kicking off here at noon, kind of the big anticipated matchup of the week for a lot of the reasons Matt just talked about there. These lines, I pulled them like at 11 o'clock last night. I don't think they've shifted a ton if they've shifted at all here. Ohio State 1.5 point favorite at home. Chris, what do you think here?
I like Texas. It just comes down, to be honest, I just think Arch is a better quarterback than Julian Sayin is. I don't know that Julian Sayin is actually any good. From what we have seen from Julian Sayin, I do not feel encouraged. So maybe he's the best quarterback on Ohio State's roster. I don't know what that means. I'm skeptical. I think we've seen Arch come in and he has some experience. Not a ton, but enough, I think. And I feel like if I'm going to put the ball in the quarterback's hands at the end of the day, like I'd rather have that quarterback be Arch, who can create better with his legs than Sayin. And like that's kind of the whole handicap for me.
It feels to me that really Ohio State's two kind of avenues in this game are Texas somehow gifts them some sort of short field or something like that they can capitalize on, maybe even multiple times, a la that Georgia Tech game yesterday. Although you would hope they would capitalize a little better than that. Or Jeremiah Smith just kind of takes matters into his own hands and pulls something out. Those really feel like the two avenues there for Ohio State. I know in the chat says here Ohio State should have grabbed Mateer. He doesn't fit what they do. They don't want him to run. So I don't think he would have fit what they want there at all. So I'm taking Texas here as well. I think I think they went outright. So yeah. Next up here, and Colin also has Texas. He wanted me to. He was very clear about that. I had to also read his pick, even though he dipped out early. Alabama, Florida State. Alabama, 2 touchdown favorite. Again, as of very late last night. It still feels light. Do you agree, Chris?
It's a lot of points, but yeah. Do you trust Thomas Castellanos to do anything? Because
no.
I know he can run, but I don't know that he's going to be able to run against this defense the same way he was able to run against ACC defenses. I think Alabama is better than they were last year, and they were already fine defensively last year. But I just think this is a big mismatch. I like Thomas Castellanos fine. I don't think he's a quarterback that you can go and win games against SEC teams with. It just doesn't make sense. And I don't think the rest of Florida State's roster is any good. So it's not just a Castellanos question. It's I don't like the receivers. I don't think they have a good tight end. I don't like the running backs. Their best one is a freshman who's hurt. The offensive line has question marks. They took kids in the transfer portal who weren't very good elsewhere. I think Alabama can score enough on offense. I trust the offensive coordinator, the reuniting of the connection a little bit better this season. So the number is really big. I haven't touched it, but I would lean Alabama.
And someone just said Justin Fields about Ohio State. I mean, they never let him run either. So they just know what they want from their quarterback. I'm taking Alabama as well. I just don't see, unless pretty much everything on Florida State exceeds my expectations. There wasn't enough roster turnover for me here to think. I think obviously last year just spiraled out of control. at some level, but you've got a lot of those same guys still there. You've still got the same head coach. I don't know that you've markedly improved. Like, I think the quarterback play will be better, but not by a lot. The running game will be a little bit better, but if you don't respect the passing game, how much better? Will the line be significantly better? I mean, maybe, but I'd have to see it first. It's not one of those things I'm necessarily going to bank on, especially, week one with limited game reps altogether. So, yeah, I'm going to take Bama as well. And Colin, for the record, also has Alabama in this one. Next up, LSU and Clemson. Clemson, a 4-point favorite here. Is this technically neutral field, but like close to Clemson?
I thought it was in Death Valley.
Oh, is it? Okay. I didn't. I had not read up on that. Clemson, LSU has not fared as well as they would have hoped in some of these big opening season matchups, but they get another opportunity here this year. Chris, it's going to be a really interesting game. I know a lot of power rankings have these teams maybe even flipped from where they're actually kind of ranked right now, with LSU 9th and Clemson 4th.
Yeah. So I have LSU here, and I think 4 is kind of a lot of points in this context, because I do think they're really close. What it's going to come down to is, did LSU get it right on defense this time around? Last year, hit the portal, wasn't good. Did it work? Did it work this time? So there are quite a few new dudes here. I think it can't be bad. It can't be worse than last year. And then on the Clemson side, it's okay, well, you don't play anybody, so how good are you really? When you class up a competition, you don't do well. I don't know that I want to trust Clemson with 4 points here. Maybe if we're talking inside a field goal, then we might be having a different discussion. But I like LSU, and I think LSU is super live to win this game, obviously. I mean, I think they have good weapons, and I think it's just, if their defense, if they hit on their transfers, then they're in good shape. That's really what it is, and I think they can't be worse than last year. And I think the offense can score with Clemson. Defense is a little concerning from LSU's perspective. Clemson has a good defense for sure. Nuss struggled at time last year with decision making. I don't know. I think the edge that Clemson has on defense is not strong enough to negate the other questions that I have about the entire roster.
The big question for me, because I do think it's a little less clear than maybe reporters from there have made it and the staff has made it. There was an injury scare with Nuss a couple of weeks ago. Is he 100% healthy? I think is really the big question, because if he's not, losing a couple of those offensive linemen from last year, I think there's potentially a little bit of trouble there for LSU if he's not fully healthy. So I'm interested to see what that looks like. I like LSU to cover. I do think they can win this game, but I do think we'll know by the end of the first quarter in terms of what this game is probably going to unfold like.
So that's fair.
If Clemson's rolling offensively, I just think it's over. It's just over at that point.
So it's the exact same situation as last year's Clemson or LSU opener.
Yes.
Which was USC, right?
Yeah.
I can see it.
Yeah. Notre Dame at Miami. There's a ton of backstory and history with this. We're not going to get into all of that, but I think there's a 30 for 30 on it, actually. I would definitely recommend checking out. It's good stuff. Was it the Convicts versus Christians? Is that what it is?
Catholics,
yeah. Thank you. Got to delineate there. That's my bad.
Well, who's the bigger? Never mind. I'm not going down that road.
Stop.
Don't get in trouble.
Notre Dame is 3.5-point favorite at Miami on the road. Notre Dame coming off the national championship appearance, but does lose, some of the quarterback, and some other key pieces. The beginning of the CJ Carr era. What do you think, Chris?
This is a really tough one for me. I think 3 points is a lot, and I've been talking all morning about how I like Carson Beck quite a bit, and I don't like CJ Carr, which is counterintuitive. I just think Notre Dame's entire roster is just better than Miami's. Quarterback, I think, is the one area where I'm looking and I'm well, I don't know. I think receivers are better. at least is currently constructed. I think the running backs are obviously better. Like I think Notre Dame has a couple injuries on the offensive line. I think they should be fine regardless. I just think the strength of Notre Dame's roster, like I think this Notre Dame team is better than last year's Notre Dame team. And yeah, they don't have the quarterback, but like, I still think this is just as good as last year. And like, I don't think Miami's competing with that, especially with the questions around back. Like, what if he's not 100%? Right? The defense was terrible last year. Like, did it improve enough in the offseason? Like, CJ Carr's line is 186 yards, but like, they can still run. And I don't know that the defense from last year is containing CJ Carr to under 200. So put that all together. I think I like Notre Dame here, but I don't like. I wish it was inside 3.
Yeah, I like Notre Dame as well. I just trust them more. They have enough built up trust essentially over the past couple years that, you know, they're at least going to go out there. They're going to like the floor with Notre Dame week in, week out is always really, really high. And, you know, I think the question with them is always, you know, do they have enough at quarterback and the wide receivers specifically to kind of have that, to add that ceiling onto it. I'm not convinced they do have that this year, but I think the floor is so high with a team like Miami, who, like you said, is real up and down on any given week with a lot of new moving pieces offensively, especially at the skill positions. I just trust Notre Dame more in this one, even, you know, at Miami overall. Last game to pick here. Oh, and Colin has Miami. So, of course, got to be different, Colin. Last one here, TCU, North Carolina. The Monday night game, the Labor Day game this week, TCU 3.5-point favorites at North Carolina. Bill Belichick's first game coaching in the college ranks. I picked TCU, Chris. I just, you know, again, trust kind of the continuity of the squad built up over the past year or two. What do you think here?
I just can't in good conscience take UNC here. Like What am I supposed to like about UNC's team? That like Bill Belichick is the head coach, and all I've heard all week is he's going to scheme something good up. He's going to scheme something good up. Like, there are smart defense coordinators in college. Like, Bill Belichick isn't some like mad scientist genius. Like, yes, he's a really good coach and a really good defensive mind, but it's not like he's going to just like be able to take over the whole game with that. And like, that's the only handicap I'm hearing for UNC this week. I just don't buy that. And I don't think the offense at UNC is going to be any good. Like, I don't like Gio Lopez as a power 4 starter. Like, I liked him when he was at South Alabama.
That's going to be such a big question for them. Yeah.
So I just can't get there on UNC. Like, it's just, I don't like the roster at all. And like the whole handicap is Bill Belichick. And I'm like, okay, well, I'd like to see him coach in college too.
It's a lot of, I think I like the other kind of extension of that is that everyone is pointing to the coordinators and everything are all, you know, former NFL coaches as well. So it's really the staff is you know,
very inexperienced at this level.
I think I do think they're going to have to grind out wins this year, and unless Lopez is just like significantly better than we thought he was in terms of like being capable of running a P4 offense, which I'm a little skeptical of as well. I think some of the stuff we saw from him over the past year or two leads me to believe that I think that's going to be a stretch. So, you know, maybe we see the true freshman Bryce Baker at some point this year. That's not really going to impact today's game at all. I think this is I think they'll find a way to slow down TCU a little bit. I'm not expecting huge games out of this passing attack. Even though I'm expecting a big year out of them, I think, you know, they'll slow them down a little bit. But yeah, I like TCU in this one as well.
What does Colin have?
TCU.
Okay, good. Smart.
Yeah.
Smart guy.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Tailgate. Thank you for joining in with us here this week. We'll be here every week before kickoff, 10 a.m. to 12 noon every single week. Shout out to Lee Corso, his last week on game day there. Obviously an icon and a staple and all of that kind of stuff there. I didn't see who he picked today because I'm locked in here. So I didn't see who he picked, but rooting for whoever he did pick. We'll be back next week with another episode of Tailgate. Good luck on all your fantasy matchups today.